Hari Om. Very good morning to all of you. We hope you have rested enough. First of all, apologies for yesterday night's experience of the bitter cold weather that you all had to face at Swanubhuti Vatika. The winter night was much more severe than we would have expected it to be. But the good music by the trio yesterday was a soul warmth provider, I am sure. In fact, both these artists are suffering from cold and cough, and she had fever last night, and despite all that, despite the weather, they played so beautifully. So a round of applause for that. Yesterday, Pandit Shubhendra ji and Vidushi Saskia Rao came to us as performing artists. Today, we would be seeing the complete personality that make them such artists. We welcome you both to our Art Talk session, which is a tool for educating those interested in the arts, but due to circumstances, they are not aware of the aspects that can make them appreciate it. So some people think music and dance is for the class audience. Some think it is entertainment, and some think it's a perfect waste of time. Not this audience, of course, otherwise you wouldn't be here. So let's ask you the first question. What would music mean to you?
Hari Om, everyone. It's a pleasure to be back here, and this time nice and warm. What does music mean to me? Music is my life. So what does my life mean to me? So it's a quite profound question that way. I think I've learned everything through my music, everything I know, how to be humble, how to practice, how to work hard to reap whatever little rewards. And most of all, the more you learn, the more you know how much there is to learn. So I think that's what music means.
So that's where the humility comes from.
Hari Om, and yeah, yesterday was cold, but I think, when you reach that state, at some point, it doesn't matter whether it's cold, whether it's hot, whether it is raining, whether it is. And I think that answers the question as to what music is, at least to me. It takes you beyond every possible, it helps, it's a path. It becomes a way of life. It's a path that we are all walking on. It's a mighty, mighty ocean. And I think very few drops that we have come to realize what it is, the depth there is, the innumerable lessons we learn literally every day. And when I was 17, and when I moved to Delhi, I was one day sitting with my guru, and he asked me, "What's your next course of action?" I had just finished my schooling, and I said, well, I have 2 more years that I need to finish to become a graduate. And maybe it's good to get that piece of paper so that I can be called a graduate. So he looked at me and he said, Beta, what will you do with that piece of paper? Meaning to say that if you have already chosen music, then go deep into it, go all the way. So in whichever field we choose, to be able to go all the way, to immerse yourself, to make it your own, and that is the most important thing, and that's what music has taught me, to go all the way, to feel it. No, I should not be a musician only when I sit with my instrument. Every walk of life, every action that I do should reflect the beauty of the music that I'm trying to learn.
How do you think you can reflect that through your life or through what you do in life?
Like Saskia said, humility, dedication, focus, concentration, every aspect that we need to practice this music should be practiced in every walk of life.
Can you elaborate a bit? It's very interesting, I'm sure, because through music, other things in life can be done better. People performing music or practicing music are better at every other aspect of life. That's what we have heard. But how does it work?
Well, I'm not a neuroscientist, but maybe in here in the auditorium there are. Effects on the brain of music have been proven over and over and over again. So that is one aspect. Of course, that is not something you personally experience or know when you are experiencing it. If we take, for instance, we just had a young girl with us, Roshni, and she gets up at 4 o'clock in the morning to practice her music. That sense of discipline that is instilled in her from now onwards, and probably much earlier, that carries over in the rest of her life, whether she becomes a performing artist or a wonderful educator or whatever options the music field offers her, because there are lots more options open than only being a performing artist. Being a performing artist is a part of being a musician. The other parts, being an educator, composing, reflecting, doing research, all these parts help us as well develop as an artist.
Thank you for that answer. And Roshni is the person that she referred to is a Gurukul student at Chinmaya Naada Bindu. So Chinmaya Vishwa Vidyapeeth, she's doing the second year BA. So thanks for, ascertaining the fact to us again, or establishing the fact again that this is an important part of training.
Absolutely.
Okay. Shubhendra ji and Saskia ji are both established musicians and have come together with equal and opposite strengths. You'll agree. Both have a firm foundation in music. Both have exposure to world music. But one is trained in the Gurukula tradition under Pandit Ravi Shankar ji, and another in a university model, though Saskia ji later took one-on-one training from expert musicians. So, can we hear from both of you the advantages you've had in the system that you studied under?
Learning under Guru is learning under, somebody as great as my Guru was. I feel, of course, every Guru has a lot to offer. And to understand that meaning of Guru itself, as we say, takes a few lifetimes. And I definitely feel I was very, very blessed to have been with one of the greatest musicians this country has ever seen, this world has ever seen. And not just because he was a very popular musician known across the world, and not just because he took music, Indian music across the world, or, lifted the status of musicians, but being so close to him since my childhood, I saw the greatness in his approach to music, that same humility and the spirituality of music, which he really felt and which he really always carried with him. Just for example, every time he would perform, there was a concert happening, and he would otherwise be very, very jovial, very, at the same time focused, preparing for each and every concert, whether it was a Spikmeke concert or whether it was performing at Dover Lane Festival or Savai Gandhar Festival. He would, the same kind of preparation. I always felt, and I told him this once, and he said, in the green room also, just before performing, he would be practicing. either with Zakir Bhai or Allah Rakhaji, whoever the tabla player was. At some point, he would just then go and want to change his last, the la kurta that he would wear on stage. So the room would get empty, I would be waiting at the door, and he would go inside, change, and come. And suddenly, the same person was a different person.
Did the kurta do that?
I wish I could put a point and say what did it. But from being an ordinary mortal, he became almost like a Gandharv. I told him that, at that point, I could no longer touch him. I could no longer feel, I could feel the elevation. So, having been close to such an artist, and even I'm learning from him even now. He's not in this world with us, but as of even literally, I was telling Saskia yesterday, day before yesterday when I slept, even in my dreams, he's still teaching me. So, Guru is not somebody who's only physically there. Swamiji here. He's with us. He's in us. He is in every action that we do. Every note that I play, I feel him. And that's when I think, when you're able to internalize, when you're able to take it within, and when you're able to then give it your own color. And this, only those great gurus are able to put that into you. Of course, you should have the potential, just like a raw stone needs to have a potential to be made into a beautiful sculpture. You should also have that, but then the greatness lies not in you, but the guru who gives you all that. So for me, yes, I think he has taught me everything that I know, everything that I feel, and has helped me walk my life.
Does that put extra responsibility on your shoulders?
I don't feel anything. At the end of the day, I want to be true to myself. I want to be true to the art that he has given me and the art that I feel. So no extra responsibility, no extra nothing. If I'm true to what I'm doing, that feeling of responsibility is not there because it is a natural movement.
It's lovely to note that even in the dreams, the guru is still teaching. So that he has internalized the guru so much that we don't need the guru outside even. The guru actually is within us all the time, right? So the person who we treat as guru outside, whatever he has said or whatever he has taught is a memory for us. And we follow that memory, and because of that memory, we are able to perform what we are doing. So internalizing and making ourselves our own guru, I think, is a big part of this training also. Right? Okay, your turn.
Yeah. You gave it as a kind of juxtaposure, the guru or an institute. For me, it has never ever been that way. I came to the conservatory. Even as a young child, I would go to the home of my cello teacher, one of the greatest cellists of the 20th century at that time. And that greatness, that music that he emulated, it's the same thing. Of course, there's only one Pandit Ravi Shankar in the world, I think, in the last 200 years or so. And I've been really fortunate to learn myself from great artists. But I had a different journey. The journey was to go into the music with a new instrument, the cello. And I still remember Pandit Hariprasad Chaurasia telling me, you should not learn from one person. And he said his guru Annapurna Devi had told him the same. Because you don't want to play like a sitar, or like a violin, or like a sarangi. You want to create the cello ang. So for that, it's a journey where you need to imbibe these different things. Now, as the guiding force and factor, he probably is one of my main influences, the other sitting next to me. And for that, yeah, you learn every single day, whether a person is there or not. The concept of guru is the main force. For that matter, I think there are even musicians who have that role given to a spiritual guru, and that can also fulfill that role in progressing in your music. So it is that itself what we look for, to emulate a kind of perfection or come a little closer to it, that the guru helps us with. And it's an everlasting journey for me. Pandit Hariprasad Chaurasia, I was fortunate to learn with him at the institute and when I would travel to India. But I would always come early to make sure I would be warmed up before the class. And the whole institute was quiet. There was just the sound of one bansuri in a far hall away. He was already sitting there to practice. It is those things that teach you so much of humility, of the force of practice, and completely dedicating yourself to that one thing you want to get better at.
Can you also talk about what Sumati ji told you? I think, yes.
Yeah, that...
Dr. Sumati Mutatkar, one of the most respected Drupad traditional singers.
Exactly. I was very fortunate to learn with her the first time I came to India, back in '94. And she was then in her late 70s. She had a perfect recollection of all the places in the Netherlands she had visited, which is not easy because it's a difficult language. But one of the things she said is, I wish I was 4 or 5 years younger. I would have definitely started learning that instrument because it's perfect for our music.
Talk about humility.
Yes.
And learning through your life.
Yes. These are the things that, bring you to that point and help you understand it's so very important to remain rooted, to remain humble, to remain... Because we believe that art is greater than the artist. And that has to... It's not the ego of an artist that should come on stage or anywhere for that matter. Because it's so very important to keep that respect towards what art is, and always approach it with humility. And every day is, we keep learning from it.
In fact, one of the main points that Guruji has given us is for Naada Bindu Festival as well as for Chinmaya Naada Bindu Gurukula is to elevate the art, the artists, and the audience to a different level through the arts.
Absolutely.
So I think we are fulfilling that by this art talk too. Saskia ji, you were trained in Western music. How did you take up, or why did you take up Indian music? In fact, you have been called an Indian by your guru just because you play Indian music. By the music that you play, you become Indian. So what made you take this turn?
It remains a mystery to me too.
We believe in past life.
Exactly. That's what Arvind Parikh once told me. I think you must have been an Indian in your previous life. Maybe, maybe not. I feel in a wider context, Indian classical music is no longer confined to the borders of the country itself. Very simple. It's a part, I don't like the word world music too much, but it's a part of world heritage. Like Western art music, now it is possible for a Dutch person growing up in the Netherlands to learn Indian classical music. And that's wonderful. It's also possible, it would have been possible for me to learn other kinds of music there. Of course, to get it to a higher level, you need to also come here and go through the grains the grinds of being in a big Indian city and all of that. But why? Why? Two levels. It attracted me immediately. I just heard one recording of the Drupad, the Daga brothers. I was sitting in my institute and listening to it. And I really, really liked it. I didn't understand it, but I knew I needed to know more. And that's the first step on the journey. Then every step slowly started showing itself. I think pretty much like what you told me about Baba Alauddin Khan, right? Learning music is like being in a dark tunnel, and at the end you see light. And you just follow that light. So you trust that light to lead you somewhere. So I think that was my journey.
Do you believe it was not a coincidence?
I know it was not. Yes.
So, moving to the next. Both of you have been collaborating with international artists and even are into composing music for various areas. So, Shubhendra ji, what would be the skills required for both of these, collaboration as well as for composing different kinds of music?
I think the word that people are using a lot, which we detest a lot, and that is fusion. Because I'll come from that point to really, start from the negative to come to the positive. Fusion, as is seen today, is basically, just put a drum and a keyboard in the back and keep playing whatever you want to, and that becomes fusion music. North Indian classical, basically you're conning people by creating confusion. North Indian classical music, I think, is a perfect example of what fusion music should be. Because historically, if we go back, then we see that the Persian influence in our music and the Indian music have fused together to a point where today we cannot take out the Persian element and say, this is Indian music and this is Persian music. So that is in North Indian music. So whatever work I try to do, and again, under the strong influence, because I was very actively involved when my guru was composing, say, for films like whether it was Gandhi or whether it was Asiad or whether it was from the early 80s onwards. I worked closely with him, and this was one aspect of learning under the Guru Shishya Parampara, because sometimes learning on stage, sometimes learning when you're interacting with, say, Yehudi Menuhin or the Russian Philharmonic Orchestra people, to see. So I always felt that to be able to work with other musicians, it is very important to know a little bit at least of what that other person brings, whatever he or she brings, meaning the tradition that they come from. And I always felt it is very important to, I will never be able to play whether it's pure jazz music or Chinese or whatever, but we need, or neither will they be able to come and play Indian music. We can come to a common meeting point. At the end of the day, there is music. There are only 7 notes. maybe the grammar, maybe some of the rules are slightly different, are quite different from each other, but there will still be a common point where we can meet. Then we express our own, from that common point we can express a lot. So that is most my take when I collaborate with other musicians, where we can kind of come to a commonality and then work from there to express our own selves. So, and composing again, being rooted in Indian music, somewhere of course the whole reflection will be Indian, but then we need to bring in the other elements, we need to bring in, learn about the other aspects, and try to bring all those influences into the music. So
it creates something new with those influences.
It does, yeah. Pushing the boundaries of our own music, and then bringing all those new elements and try and create music that is unique in its own way.
Yeah, in other words, maybe getting out of the box.
Yes.
Otherwise, we get stuck to what we already know and we're not willing to take more.
Or you can also show the elements in the box in a different way.
Rearrange.
Yeah, it's all whatever you envision in your composition. You want to tell a story. And that is what determines the instruments, the everything. So that is different each and every time when you compose. When you collaborate, that's a different story because you come as equal partners. What is everyone bringing to the table? And what can you create out of that? So these are two different elements. It's not black and white. You have a lot of gray areas in between where parts are that. But largely, I think it's important to understand the difference between the role of composer and the role of collaborator. These are different.
Right now I thought up of a question because
Yes,
in our Gurukul we insist that even if you're learning instruments, we learn to sing a little bit because otherwise we feel it's not complete.
Absolutely.
So what do you have to say to that? And why would you say it is important?
Like even yesterday, when I was talking to Anish about something, he said about how one artist, when he asked him, which rag are you going to sing? Anish Bhai asked him, which rag are you going to sing? He said, Dha, Krdhin, bas. Which meant that you are a tabla player, you don't need to know which rag, you need to know which tal I'm going to sing in.
Terrible.
That's bad.
Which is not the way. That's why we laughed and we said, you know, every melody, whether it's sitar or cello or violin or vocalist or whatever, everybody should know the tabla. Similarly, every tabla player should know the rag. Because music, we cannot separate and say, this is, you need to only specialize in tal, you need to only specialize in melody, rag. And similarly, every instrumentalist, because at the end of the day, we consider the voice to be the ultimate instrument, and we are always imitating the voice. So every instrumentalist, yes, should know how to sing. May not become a Pandit Bhimsenji or whatever, but a good singer should be able to sing. And it always helps your own music when you are able to sing. When you're able to recognize and appreciate the tabla bowls, the beauty of what they bring, that is what kind of creates, so it is very, very important that vocal training, even if it's not formal training, but how to sing, yes.
Because I think we can explain it like this. There should ideally be no difference whether I sing or whether I play my instrument. So to learn that skill itself, to sing through your instrument, or to play through your voice, the fastest way to learn that is to also learn singing. But in the end, I feel in the end it's not important that you are a great singer indeed. You sing inwardly, always. When we play our music, we are singing. It's through our instrument.
A cheeky question.
I love that.
Can we have one Bandish line sung so that we understand the importance? And I'm sure you are for it.
You want to?
I don't think I'm right now in a state I can even. But
No, there's a beautiful Bandish composed by Baba Alauddin Khan Sahib in Yaban. And I think very apt for this place also.
Yeah, but
you can try, you can join me. Which bit?
I'm as low as possible. Yeah.
Saraswati Mateshwari, Saraswati Mateshwari, Veena Pani Jagajanani, Veena Pani Jagajanani, Sakala Kala Vidyadani, Sakala Kala Vidyadani, Saraswati Mateshwari, Saraswati Mateshwari, Tu hi data, tu hi dani, tera hi kripavani. Tu hi data, tu hi dani, tera hi kripavani. Deho siddhi, deho siddhi, Saraswati Mateshwari, Saraswati Mateshwari, Veena Pani Jagajanani, Veena Pani Jagajanani, Sakala Kala Vidyadani, Sakala Kala Vidyadani, Saraswati Mateshwari, Saraswati Mateshwari, Saraswati Mateshwari.
How nice. Thank you. You took us fast forward for tomorrow. Tomorrow is Basant Panchami and we are doing a Saraswati Puja in the morning. So thank you for that. Now, yeah, we are aware of the Shubhendra and Saskia Rao Foundation that you have set up with a vision that music is the birthright of every child. Now, for the most important point from this audience perspective, do you believe that music is for all and why? What are your views on music education and what are the steps you have taken towards this?
Indeed, the first thing that a child responds to is sound, naad. The first thing that we all experience is sound when we enter this world.
Even before.
And even before,
Even
of
before,
course.
exactly.
Of course. But, you know, literally, if I have to ask my ear, what is the first thing? It is sound. The voice of the mother is music for the child. So indeed, music is for all. It is as basic as that. There is music in the voice, there's rhythm in the heart, there's rhythm in movement. There is, if there is no music, then, you know, the voice of the robot, there is no fluctuation. So somewhere we start losing it and we start thinking, no, music is not for me. So indeed, music is for all. And we believe that every child is a creator. Every child has music. Every child needs music. And it's up to us, parents, grandparents, great-grandparents, and everyone, to give that gift of music to every child.
Yeah. What if I have not been exposed to music and I'm a grown-up now? So is there any use?
Of course, there is always. I think we way much too much emphasize on music as a performing arts. Music is a sharing arts. We need to share music as communities. There are so many communities and cultures who do not understand the concept of when you say, no, I'm not such a good singer. What do you mean? You can talk, right? So how is it possible that you can say you can't sing? Everyone can sing. The condition of amusia, which in common terms means tone deaf, only affects about 1.5% of the population. That's less than half of the children who are affected with other learning challenges, other learning challenges. So it's really very few who can't sing. It's mostly bad instruction. It's a fact. And how does that happen? Because we put children on the spot. Now you start singing. Now you perform. Beta, come on, sing a song. Huh? Like that. And it happens. One snide remark from a music teacher can also kind of cut off the complete development. I don't know, in this auditorium, we always have this kind of question, so let's try it here as well.
Very good, yeah.
So, who in this room is a musician, is a professional musician? Wonderful, wonderful, fantastic. Who is a musician? Fantastic. Oh, yes. Wonderful. So, who is a musician? Now, the second question, who is musical? Who can really hold a tune nicely in this room? Oh, wow, wonderful.
More hands.
Very good. Who in this room loves music? It always works out the same. And we want children, very simple, that's the whole focus of the foundation, to raise their hand with the very first question.
So let's find out who in the audience cannot sing.
Or rather, the people who told them that they cannot sing.
They have been convinced that they cannot sing. So today we'll prove. Let's all sing Sa. Huh? Will you lead it?
Sa.
Let's make it louder.
Very good. Now let's try something else. This group will stay in Sa. Sa.
Beautiful.
And now this group will sing Ga.
Ga.
Sa.
Fabulous.
And this group
We'll go to Pa.
Lovely.
So we have a choir here.
Beautiful choir.
And now together, a little loudly.
1,
Same notes.
2, 3.
Beautiful. So you can go back outside this hall and say, I can sing. No, here itself, you're convinced that you can sing. And even if you're 78 or 91, you can still learn music.
And it's also fun, especially also when you have maybe a little more time to sing together, to have it as a group activity. Indeed, when you're
I mean, that's the great thing of
Yes.
Chinmaya Mission and all these
Exactly,
beautiful...
to sing bhajans together. I mean, who can't sing bhajans? We are all singing together. And it's that community feeling, the intensity with which you sing.
For some reason, yes, when you start learning music, the idea, or rather the expectation, is that you will go on to becoming a performing artist. Not necessarily. Just because you're learning science doesn't mean you will be a scientist. Just because you learn maths doesn't mean you become a mathematician. But it's still an important part of a child's education. Similarly, the educative aspect of music is the most underused subject in the field of education. And this is what we need to change. That a child who learns music is not learning music because he or she needs to become a Pandit Ravi Shankar or Ustad Zakir Hussain or a Lata Mangeshkar, but actually learning music so that his or her sensitivity, his or her various faculties, everything will improve by learning music. Most important, sensitivity. Today we see all this noise, chaos around us. In today's world, it becomes even more relevant that every child should learn music. Every child should be, and of course, since we are in India, they should learn classical Indian music. If the child is growing up say in the US or in UK, classical Western music, culture rooted. My guru used to always say, ki beta, always be strong like a banyan tree, rooted in your culture. But then also, once you're rooted, then no gust of wind will sway you away. There are a lot of things you can still learn, which you need to learn from the other cultures. But your root, as an Indian, you should be rooted in your culture.
And that is what allowed me to learn Indian music, because I played the cello in a very deep Western classical way since I was 6 years old. That's how I could make that switch.
Did you have a small cello at that time?
Yes, I
Instrument
did.
itself is so big.
Yes, I did have a half-size cello then. Yes. But music education, I think we've become very passionate about it. Before that, it was a kind of vague concept. Yes, it's very important. But the more we looked into the importance, the findings are just absolutely amazing. And it's very heartwarming. It's hard work that we put in with the program. But nowadays we are able to serve more than 20,000 children with music education.
Before you get into this, just a question about what do you think about children being sent to music classes to be able to give an exam or to be able to perform on stage? 1 month after the child starts learning, the child should be seen on stage and the parents should take videos and send it out to their friends.
I hope there's an antibiotic that can treat that also. Created that can treat that. No, I mean, it's absolutely rubbish because then why...
I'm sure you're correcting it through your program, but I mean, this is the general concept. Everybody feels they should be on stage.
On stage, and this is unfortunate. Again, this other aspect of what this reality shows and TV and all this diseases that are coming into our society. Driven by, it's all more financial driven, whereas Pandit Bhimsen Joshi or Ustad Bismillah Khan was not created in one day or 1 year or they come once in a lifetime. But more than that, like we are all emphasizing, it's about how this whole process started, of course. because we are, like Saskia said, we are passionate about this now. We believe that every child should learn music. In our own development as human beings and as artists, one of the natural processes of life is when you become parents and when you suddenly see life in a different way. So in our journey together, we discovered, at least I have to say that Saskia led the way and I followed in this. And that is basically to see the importance of music in our son's upbringing, which helped us realize the gift that we were given as children ourselves. And that reflection and that thought process is what gave rise to this whole, I call it a movement. It's no longer just a mission or a passion or whatever. It's a movement that we have initiated to bring music education to schools, where we believe that every child, early childhood music education, say from the age of 3 onwards till the age of 9, every child should study music in a curriculum, in a way that is age appropriate, in a way that is very, which will help their overall development. And then later, of course, the actual music learning, whether it's an instrument or whether it's tabla or whether it's vocal, that is music learning, music instruction. But the education of music, the foundation level, has to be very, very strong. So you want to...
Yeah, I saw here outside, I think when we were walking to the concert, a sign about Naada Bindu saying modern researched pedagogy with ancient wisdom. And that is exactly what we try to do with this. If we look at music education, it's not what makes a good musician. First and all, we need to open those ears. So with young children, we listen to the environment. We become silent. What all sounds do we hear here? What's the soundscape we're working with? That's an exercise, one of the exercises we start with children. And they close their eyes and they listen to the sounds first in the room, then what is coming from further away. So we open those ears, one part. Other part is concept building. What does it mean if a parent says, Beta, sing in a low voice? Doesn't mean anything. The concept itself is not specified. Is it pitch, which means frequency, high pitch, low pitch? Is it volume, loud or soft? Is it fast or slow, which is a rhythm concept? So we work, that comes to the next point, we work very closely with our teachers and train them to give those concepts. Second part. Third, building the voice. Whether someone becomes a CEO of a company and needs to do public speaking, or a teacher, or a vocalist, they all benefit from a well-developed voice. So a lot of breathing exercises, the yogic breathing from the stomach, which opera singers also use. We teach young children how to do that. We chant Om with them, but separate it in 3, the A, the U, and the M, so they can sense the different resonators within their bodies. These practices are very scientific, they're very exact, and they yield clear results, even after a short time. So voice development, then instrument playing. Every child should have the joy of simple instruments. So we designed a whole instrument kit for them to play and to read the music.
I've seen some of those in your place, and it was an enjoyable session with you all. They have a small xylophone. from which you can take out the pieces and use them for different notes. And the child has the pleasure of playing them and identifying the notes through colors. So it's beautiful. And then they have a pipe, bansuri, the one that you play straight. So whatever you do, you'll still find a sound coming out. So the child is happy, I'm blowing into something.
Success rate is 100% in these.
Success rate, 100%.
So every child feels that he or she is actually playing. And that success, the joy of success, drives the child wanting to learn more and more. So from literally one note of sa, then we introduce 3 notes, sa, re, ga. So, I mean, these are children who are given no exposure at home. You know, our son or any other musician's son or, you know, a family which is cultured and gives music to a child, that's a different story altogether. Because they are exposed to it, whether they like it or don't like it, they are exposed to it all the time, 24/7. Our son, you know, he was playing with his Lego toys at the age of 1, but he was singing Rakhi Irvani. Because he knew nothing else at that age. Now, of course, iPhones, iPads, and whatever else, but at that age, so that is ingrained in him, right from, I mean, in that sense, even when he was in the womb, we believe that a child's education starts 9 months before it is born. So literally in the womb stage itself, when, you know, Saskia, even on the last day she went into labor, her cello was resting against the stomach, and then suddenly she says, okay, let's go. So, but all those vibrations, all those things, we are not able to understand, but it plays such a big role.
And it's not sitting him down and now you start learning this very serious classical tradition, which unfortunately happens to children when they're not from a musical background. They go for a music class. And the music class is actually, the pedagogy is catered to much older children. So what is the conclusion? Classical music is not for young children. Not true. This methodology is not working for young children.
The minute we say, this is difficult, your hands will cut, 7 janam lag jayega isko seekhne mein. Why would a child want to learn classical music? I would rather go and strum a guitar and, you know, around a bonfire like Saif does and win a few girls over, as that's what every child would think.
That should be 100% success rate.
That's what every child would think. Rather than that, of course, the music is great. There is nothing greater. But the access to that music has been made so difficult for for children that they run away from it. And then add to that a few not good music teachers who make it boring.
Not few, many.
I didn't want to say that myself, but...
Yeah, but again, not their fault, because...
It's not their fault again.
They are not prepared to teach classroom music. It's like, basically, I always say, it's like sending in Ruskin Bond, great children book writer, to teach the ABC sensitivity to KG children. Why is it not effective? He's not trained for it. So we need to help our music teachers to get the skills for classroom music education. And not, this is the way my Guruji taught. No, those things are not valid in a classroom. So that is where we try and help as much as possible.
So in that sense, then, when Ishan, our son, was 1 or 2 and whatever else, the process started, because Saskia wanted we wanted him exposed to both the traditions of music, Indian classical as well as Western classical. And for Western classical, there is a lot of resources that are age appropriate for a 2-year-old, for a 3-year-old, for a 5-year-old, in a way, hand-holding the child and walking through the development. But for Indian music, 0. Gurumukhi Vidya, which is great, nothing to replace the guru. But that's not valid in a classroom of 35, 40 children who have 0 exposure to music otherwise, or the only exposure they have is 4 bottle vodka. which is the sorry state of affairs today. So we need to give the proper tools both to the teacher and understand the psychology of the children at that age, make it age appropriate. So in this process started this whole Sangeet for All, is the name of the curriculum that Saskia has written, basically bringing class music education to a child from the age of 3. That's when we can at least get the child for the first time, and that is when the child joins school. So literally from the first day that school, the child enters school, so the child is taught A, B, C, D, A, E, E, and everything else, but also the child is now slowly getting into the world of music also. And amazingly, the results have been so heartwarming that, in one school, literally a month ago, one of the principals said that previously, as a punishment, they would say, if you don't behave, this week you will have your music class. Literally a year later, once this program was put in place and once the teachers started teaching, the same school, they had to change the punishment and say, if you don't behave, you won't have your music class this week. Because children they love learning now.
And we don't dilute. They learn to listen to pure classical music. We don't play Casios or there's no electronic instruments, and there's only really classical traditions. Mostly Indian, but also other traditions of the world, but not the Bollywood version of it, the real traditions of everywhere.
So it's a whole 6-year program where the child, these are some of the books. Later we can, we just brought a few of them. The books that Saskia has written and is published, and now every child is using it in the school. In the first year, they learn about sensitizing themselves, sensitizing them to dhwani, the sound, like Saskia said, opening the ears and everything else. In the second year, they are made to understand the richness of Indian music instruments. Sorry state of affairs as is that everybody calls the sitar a guitar, tabla or a bongo or a dholak, dholki, tabalchi. The way music or musicians or music instruments are even thought of, not in a very positive way. I can give tons and tons of examples as to how bad it is. But now our children are recognizing what is a Rudraveena. Our children are listening to Sur Bahar and can understand the sound of Sur Bahar. Why? Because it is being brought to them in a way that they can understand and learn, love to learn. So the second book is Vadya. The third one is Raga and Tala, where the child is introduced to 5 different ragas and 5 different talas, but in the form of a story. Because how does a child enjoy? What does a child love? Stories. Bedtime stories. The grandmother's stories. So if we bring it to that educative element also with that fun way of learning and with that, so the child, this I'll shortly explain.
So in the book you have characters assigned to each of these ragas or
absolutely.
Yeah.
Each instrument also. So in this book, Raga and Tala, it's about a boy called Surya. Surya, who doesn't do too well in other subjects, but has been gifted with a great voice. In every class you find one Surya. So, that kind of element. His close friend is Azim, who learned tabla from his father, grandfather, great-aunt, and uncle, and everybody else. And all of a sudden, the teacher tells them, you have to enter into a competition. So from being a good singer, he always suddenly becomes very nervous as to how he can sing or whatever. So that whole perplexity in the mind that, what can I do and things like that. So he's very scared. His mother tells him, don't worry, everything is fine, and then goes to sleep. And in the sleep, he's woken up by... I
don't know if you can...
I don't know whether I can show it, but later on, we can...
Yeah.
Yeah. So all of a sudden, he's woken up by Urvashi, who tells him that I'll take you to the land of the ragas. So they go on a journey. Early in the morning, they see Lord Bhairav is sitting and practicing. And Bhairav teaches them the Aro Avro of Bhairav. And then a small bandish. Even the bandish is age appropriate. Not a 5-year-old won't understand what is the love of Radha and Krishna, but a child will understand the surroundings. So even the wordings, actually, one of our theme songs of our whole foundation is written by Shyam, our dear friend, and whom we all know in here also, because we believe that why should a child... There is no song that will introduce children to Indian music notes. So he wrote a beautiful song, Sare Gaye. So using Sare Gama Padha Nisa, Sare Gaye. So
there's a beautiful song like that by Pandit Dinkar Kaikani ji also.
Yeah.
You heard that one?
I've heard that. Can you sing it for us?
Just a couple of
Please,
lines,
please.
Sa pa sa pa sa pa sa sa pa sa pa sa pa sa एक सप्तक में होती है 7 सुरों की एक लड़ी ऊपर जाते आरोही और लौटे अवरोही सारे गा मा पा धा नी सा नी धा पा मा गा रे सा pa sa. And then
Lovely.
there's more to it, but
Sare Gaye, you want to sing?
Can you join?
I'll join you, of course. The Sare Gaye, every child can sing this. Simple words, simple tune that we put it.
So it's in the... so you can see the text.
Where is it? सा से संग चलो सब भोले रे से आओ रिश्ते जोड़े गा से की गाए सुर में माँ से आओ मन को जोड़े मगरे रे गा मा गरे सा सा रे गा सा ग रे मा ग रे सा 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 रे रे ग ग मा मा पा से प्यार कभी न हो कम धा से धीरज रखे हरदम नी से निर्मल वाणी बोले सा से संग चलो सब भोले सा नि ध प म म प ध नि ध प म ग ग म प ध प म ग रे रे ग म प म ग रे सा 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 ग म प ध नि सा सा नि ध प म ग रे सा सा रे ग म प ध नि सा सा नि ध प म ग रे सा सा रे ग म प ध नि सा सा नि ध प म ग रे सा रे ग रे ग सा रे ग रे ग सा रे ग रे सा. So just using the same 7 notes, but also a positivity. So anyway, this was, so in Raga and Tala, then, Bhairav, Sarang, Bhimpalasi, Yaman, and Malkons. So 5 rags and 5 talas they learn. Deepchandi, Teen Tal, Jhap Tal. So this, we are talking of very basic knowledge. Not that, we're giving them, but they know, they're easily able to do all that. And in the 4th book, then it's about Desi. So we have Dhwani, Vadya, Raga and Tala, Desi. India we are so rich in our folk tradition also. So a child from Delhi should know about the folk tradition from Kerala. A child from Tamil Nadu should know a song from Orissa. So that's when, because our music is so related to our culture, folk is such a strong element. Then the fifth book, which will be out in the next couple of months, is Dunia. So an exposure to world music from an Indian perspective. Now the child has already got 4 years of foundation. So in the 5th year, he or she can understand what is Chinese music, what is Western classical music, Western art music, because in India right now, unfortunately, it's either Indian music or Western music. And West could mean Mozart, Michael Jackson, everything and everything. Chinese also is Western music. So, but basic knowledge is very important. And then in the last 6th year, Shastra, taking the child back to the Samaveda, where music started, and bringing it to 2019, where even Bollywood music has a relevance. We are not against Bollywood or pop music. We love it also, but the root should be classical.
And in the classroom, we should make use of musical styles that have educational value. Often, teachers tell me, yeah, but the children love a little peppy music.
Peppy music.
Peppy music. Somehow, I'm not too fond of that word either. But I said, yeah, well, are they fond of McDonald's, hamburgers, and fries? Yes. So do you give that every single day when they ask for it? So it's the same thing with music. We need to see what is educational, what the real child inside really wants. I mean, they don't want nonsense and not great value. They actually, the way they respond to classical music is really beautiful to see. I mean, they do calm down. They do become a little more grounded through this classical tradition.
And we believe that every child is like a sponge. Whatever we put, they will take it. If we put the wrong elements, that will get absorbed. If we put the right elements, that will get absorbed. So actually, when we say children or don't like, or children cannot, no, there is nothing that they cannot or they won't like. It's our own perspective. So the change actually doesn't need to happen in children, it needs to happen in us. We are the people who can bring that change. So we are the people who should be doing that.
Very nice. So I'm through with most of my questions. We have some time.
Maybe
would
they
it
have
be
some
okay
questions?
to
Yeah,
open
absolutely,
for
please.
questions? So 3-4 questions I think we can take if anybody has some relevant questions. Yes.
Yes, please.
The question is that yesterday when he was playing the sitar, it was on a higher pitch, and she was playing on the lower octave on the cello, and it sounded as though somebody was singing. So is it a planned thing or was it impromptu?
I think it's the inherent quality of the instrument, the cello, which sounds like the voice, and probably why Sumatiji, Dr. Sumati Mutatkar said, I want to learn this instrument. The sound is perhaps closest to the male voice.
Just like the sarangi is close to the female voice, the cello perhaps is close to the male voice.
Yeah, we get to hear this very often, and thank you for sharing that, because I cherish that. Thank you.
Hariom Shubhendra ji, Hariom Saskia ji. I would like to know some points which everyone should keep in mind while choosing their teacher or while choosing a university? Can you tell something?
That's a very tough question. I don't know about university. Maybe you can.
I think it depends. First of all, what age? If it's for you yourself, whom do you admire? Whom does inspire you? So go with that. It's very simple, really. And go right to that person. I want to learn from you. Just ask. The worst that can happen is that they say no. But usually, if you go with an honest and open mind and you want to learn from someone, most will be very happy to do that, if it's possible. So I think, does that answer your question?
So normally what happens nowadays, teachers are very professional minded and they just want to do it for money, and their methodology is quite basic, which, see, I being already learnt something, I would prefer to start from the middle. I would not prefer to go completely from below because I know how to do the basic. So they prefer to teach it from the beginning so that they benefit monetarily.
It could also be that, I'm presuming you're talking of singing.
Yes.
Yeah. It could also be that, if when you go to a new person, there needs to be a relationship that has to be built. It does not start from day one. So in that sense, every guru will take you a few steps back.
Yeah.
Because he or she wants to know your capability, wants to know how much you can give. If he or she is a good guru, I would, if you ask me, I'll take everybody at least 5 steps back.
Yes.
And then not to only judge the person, but also to mold that person in the way you would like to take that person forward. And that cannot happen literally overnight. It needs time. So if he or she is a good guru, for sure he or she will take you a few steps back, but those few steps back will not, if you have spent, say, 1 year in those few steps, it will take you 2 months now. So you'll be put back 2 months, but then the growth will be faster. So there is an element of trust that you also need to give. Not only thinking that that person is wanting to earn more money out of you. If it's
Teaching is not a great way to earn money. It's usually from a passion, I think, that people teach. And if you don't feel that passion is there,
So somewhere you need to go by your own instinct. How you feel, how comfortable you are. And if you are comfortable, then you need to give that little extra time. And then he or she will take you on.
Thank you so much. That answers
Yes,
my
please.
question.
Can I also add to this
Yes,
that instead of judging somebody that person is like that, if we don't find value in that person, we just move to another person without making statements about that person. Because we don't know where we are, we don't know where they are. So rather than making statements, we move on. Like if you find somebody blocking the sun while you're at a beach, the sun is setting, you're standing behind somebody. Instead of making that person move, you might take a step aside and then you can see the sun beautifully.
Hello.
Yes, please.
Yesterday you played, it was a very wonderful
Thank
rehearsal.
you. Thank you very much.
I think after so many years of my life, I heard a very good music concert.
Thank you very much.
And overall, congratulations to you and compliments to you.
Thank you.
Yesterday you played first one, Bihag.
Yes.
Can you sing 1 or 2 Hindi film tunes of the same Bihag?
I cannot. I don't know.
Yes. Yeah, I was thinking of that song.
Start off, I may know.
तेरे सुर और मेरे गीत दोनों मिलकर बनेगी प्रीत तेरे सुर और मेरे गीत.
Yeah. No, these old songs, treasures. Because they had music, they had lyrics, they had so much emotion in them, rather than the...
And all of them were trained in classical, surely.
Yes, but not always bad that happens today also.
No, 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 not at all.
You know?
No, no.
No.
I do enjoy today's music when there is some melody.
Yes.
I mean, the movie Padmavat or the, other one, lovely songs. Arijit is singing so well. Not to say that everything about today is bad. No. Yeah, it's this pop culture. Even that, to a certain extent, is okay. But when that is the only thing that children are fed, like Saskia said, only McDonald's, then we have a problem.
Chhaiya, 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 chhaiya. Oh, chhaiya.
Sir,
Yes, please.
Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Sir, this is related to special children.
Yes, please.
So, our experience, once me and my wife, we had traveled to Australia. Accidentally, we had gone to a special children's school. There we found that they are bringing up children with the music. In 2005, we have introduced the music in our special school. We found the speech therapists, 95% of our children have a speech problem. Speech therapies were difficult commodity to find, very expensive. And now after introducing music, we found that they picked up so well that we removed the speech therapies.
Kya baat hai?
And that is a fact. We've seen it ourselves. And we see these children are so innocent. And music is inborn with them.
Absolutely.
And they love music, singing, dancing. But we are not sure whether we are putting it in a right way. Maybe there are far better ways how you put these children. And the way what I seen that you put it in 6 different ways, starting basics. And I think we are lagging in that. So I would take help of Naada Bindu yourself to see how best the special children, this is what you are doing it for a normal children, but for a special children I would request if some help could be given, a systematic way of putting them, then it would be a great help.
It will be absolutely a pleasure, and thank you for sharing what you have, because indeed, what music does, not just for every child, but even for those special children,
Yeah, in lots of our schools where we work, there is an inclusive class environment. So there are children with all different kinds of learning challenges. There are special children with somewhere in the autism spectrum. So they're all in the classroom. And we try and help our music teachers how to deal with a diverse classroom. I'm really happy to tell one of our facilitators, this was a new music teacher, and the classroom teacher was saying, yeah, this child is very, very, very naughty. If they sit in the back of the class, they never pay any attention. I have to put it all the way in the front. See how naughty. Our facilitator, trained with our few tools, I mean, it's not at all complete yet, but the work that we've done so far, said, could it be that he has an auditory learning challenge? Is it possible that you test this child? And it turned out to be true. Obviously, if the child was sitting in the back of the classroom, every information came at the same level to this child. And at the front, that was the only adjustment they actually needed to make. That's not a big deal. So, yeah, this is how music, but also sensitizing our teachers really helps.
You know, a couple of months ago, in the afternoon, you have been to our house. Somebody rang the doorbell, and the lady working for us, she said, there is a lady with a child who wants to come and meet you. So we asked to bring the child inside. The mother walked down and she said, my child is alive because of your music program.
Great.
And she said, the child is studying in Mothers International, where your music program is being taught. And let me say that, you know, he's the surviving twin. And he was born 6 months, just premature. He was born. And the very fact that he's even alive today is itself a miracle. And today, for the first time, the child is now maybe 7. Rihan is about 7. So in the last 2 years, he's showing a light which I had not seen in him. He has read each of the book, and every day he has to read it at least 20 times, 25 times. He knows every word of the book. He has absorbed it so deeply that he's now waiting for the new book already. And then one adjustment we thought was what would help him is if he started learning piano. So, because he has a curve, a few problems with the fingers also. So our son Ishan started teaching him piano to help him, both music as well as physical. I mean, fine motor skills and all that we talk about, even learning a music instrument helps the child's fine motor skills rather than use a pen or anything. So Ishan literally last week was saying that I'm so happy to see Rihan in less than 3 months' time that he can strike note on a piano the way it should be played. He can move all his 5 fingers properly now on the piano.
And I want to add, because it's an empowering experience for the child, but also for a 14-year-old boy who gets the opportunity to teach that. And I think that is the role as teachers, as educators. It's the saying, right? Where one teaches to really learn. And I find that to be so, so true. That teaching experience of music, it's a new road of discovery for us.
And whether it was Plato, whether it was Socrates, whether it was Swami Chinmaya, whether it was Tagore, whether it was Rumi, whether it was Jack Ma as of 2 months ago, or whether it was Prince Charles as of 2 weeks ago, all talking about the fact that early childhood music education is the most important. Jack Ma, the owner of Alibaba, one of the richest men in the world, what did he say? He said, we are now living in a world where robots are doing things better than human beings. And the only one thing they cannot is creative, any creative art. So let's teach our children music, acting, dance, these arts which a robot can never ever do.
What do you think about artificial music that they're creating now?
As artificial as it should be sounding.
I don't think it's, if it works, it works.
Artificial intelligence, I'm sorry, I used the wrong word. Artificial intelligence.
To be honest, if it would really work, I would have nothing against it, but I don't think it does. Maybe yet, maybe it will at some point. I don't know. It's a scary thought, isn't it? To me, I find it, very unsettling. But there is a wish and a hope in me that it is not really possible.
Yes, please.
Should we? No. Last question, please.
Hari Om. My question is about rap music. So I am a student of tabla. The thing, I find nothing bad about rap music, but that has now become the definition of music for a very big population. And the counter that I get when I say that this is not actually the kind of music that, you know, I have been exposed to is that आप तबले की पढ़ंत करते हैं ना, ये rap music भी वैसा ही है. Because I don't know, it's something that upsets me sometimes, and sometimes I think, I don't know, this needs to be worked on. So what is your opinion on this? What can a person who's seen music, a little bit of it, say to a question like this or to a comment like this?
I think your role is to be an educator here. So with the same empathy and kindness as you would explain it to a child. The person who says this statement clearly has zero knowledge about the field of music and is missing out. And you can literally give the same example as I gave of the hamburgers. Or, you know, it's very easy to cut down arts. It's not important to me. No, if you don't explore it, it will never be. You're missing out. So be the educationalist here.
Trying to see the child. I think that's a very good point that you made. Trying to see a child in somebody who is talking to you like that. Because in that field, he is only a child. Yes.
Thank you.
I think we should...
Oh,
One last.
There was another question coming from there too.
Yes.
Can Western and Indian music be connected at some point?
Of course, I mean, you know, when you say Western, I would like to know a little more about what kind of Western music you have listened to. Pop.
Pop and Indian classical, can they be connected?
They can, for sure. Why not? At the end of the day, it's only music. And every music has 7 notes. Every music has the same kind of rhythm. Some a little more complex, some a little less complex, some easier, some more difficult. So it is always possible to bring many streams together on a common platform. So I can put a sitar into a song by Beyonce also. Why not?
And if you want to do that, however, I think it's important to learn both the things really well. So learn the Indian classical and learn system of harmony, music notation, bit of music history. So you can combine these things then yourself. It's not a one-day process, but of course it's possible.
Thank you.
In addition, you can eat rice with chutney, sambar, what else, pickle, anything. You have to be the rice that will blend with any other thing.
Or yogurt.
Or yogurt. Yes, sir. One last question from you.
Yes, please.
Hello. Can you tell something about effect of music on plant life and animal life?
Wonderful. When I grew up in Bangalore, and my mother loved gardening, so we had a small little piece, I mean, you know, literally few feet. So she always tried to get some rose plants and things like that. And we had about 5 or 6 different colors. And believe me, each one was about this big. So everybody, I'm talking of Bangalore, the good old Bangalore, not the Bangalore of today, the 70s. So everybody who would walk had to turn their head and appreciate. Everybody appreciates beauty. So our neighbors felt a little jealous, perhaps. So they said, you know, why do they only have good roses in their house? Maybe why don't we take a few cuttings from their house and we will get the same good roses. They were good, but they were not as good. So they blamed it on the sand and the soil, that their house soil is more fertile and they use better manure and everything else. So we gave them some soil also and the same brand of manure that was used, and the same Mali also went to their house and equal 2 liters of water or whatever. But even then it was not as good. It was good, but not as good. Until somebody said, where will you get the music in there that is in their house? So, as somebody explained, yes, the plants were perhaps responding to the music that was being played in our house at least 16 hours of the day. So, I don't think more needs to be said.
It's the same. If it works for plants, it works for animals.
But yeah, music is a vibration. So that...
Every living being feels it.
Exactly, and responds to it as well.
So I must call it a day. Thank you so much for being with us and answering every question, even from here and from the audience, so patiently. We can see the passion in your, in the art that you have. We wish that we will continue to have association with you in future too.
Absolutely.
In all respects, as performing artists, as well as teachers.
Very much.
So we love to keep associated with you, and we will probably take Ashirwad from Guruji before you leave.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
God bless you.
No, this is a very special place for us also to be here. I think when were we here last? 2009? Or just when Naada Bindu had started? We were here many years ago.
Yes, this was in 2008, December.
Okay.
Naada Bindu had not started.
Not yet,
still.
no.
And then there was someone talking about neuroscience and the effects
Yes.
of music.
Yes.
Where they also spoke about the research in London, music with plants and all. So perhaps you can share that person, because she would be an expert in the knowledge of the question about plants and animals.
Right. We'll do that. Thank you. And
Thank
I
you very
invite
much.
Sundarji from our Kochi campus to kindly hand over a little token from Chinmaya Naada Bindu Gurukula to the artists. I'm sure all of us enjoyed this chat. Thank you. Now,
one more big round of applause for Pramodini ji for conducting this session so well. Thank you so much.